82% of team members feel misunderstood or undervalued. So this is exactly where I like to be, teaching, communicating, helping others, realizing their aspirations. I'm so excited about shattering the glittering image and uncovering the truth about you.
Welcome back to the Intrepid Impact Leadership Show here on YouTube. I'm Jerry Howard, your host, your leadership expert, and your certified jail inspector. If you don't know what that is, please tune in to the other episodes. You're going to I think you're going to enjoy that. Everybody likes hearing about challenges and we'll call it illegal debauchery. Today, we're talking about an excellent concept. I could probably spend multiple episodes talking about this particular tool. And again, the tools, the pictures and videos that we use here on the show come from a company called Giant Worldwide. Giant makes content and a digital platform that consultants like me and my team to use to deploy inside organizations. Each one of these tools has kind of a particular application, a way of using leadership and creating a language of leadership that everybody can understand, and that's why pictures are so important. If you think about how leadership used to be before, it was all about creating a healthy leader. It was all about the leader. It wasn't necessarily about leadership. And that's why Giant created these tools. That's why Intrepid Impact Team uses these tools. It's our foundational language of leadership, we like to say. So today we're talking about a leadership tool that I love called the 5 Gears. Now the 5 Gears is an incredible way of managing not only your tendencies, your personality, all those things that make up a day, a week, a month, a year. How do you manage yourself, your activities, your recharge, your rest, your socialization, meeting others, managing your team, and getting work done? The point of the 5 Gears is how to get everything done and still be fully present in everything that you do. And using the gears is a metaphor taken from a stick shift. Now, if you have not ever driven a stick shift, this might not be as easy to understand, but every car goes through certain gears. So in your car, whether it's an automatic or a stick shift, there's reverse. Now, we know that reverse is technically a gear. So in the 5 gears, we start with reverse because why? Let's get out of the driveway. Okay, so let's back up, get out of the driveway. Then we're going to hit first gear. First gear is kind of where we get the car rolling, the momentum. Second gear gets us moving up to a particular speed, usually second, I would say third gear in the neighborhoods. And then when we get out on those smaller roads, think 2 lanes, double yellow line in the middle, that might be 4th gear. And then of course 5th gear. 5th gear is for the highway, we're cruising, we're rolling. We don't need a lot of torque, but we definitely want to keep cruising at that speed. So the 5 gears creates a metaphor for us to live our daily life that way. So starting with reverse, I like to start in the lower gears. Starting with reverse, that is apologizing, right? So you can see there it's responsive mode. Backing up or apologizing when necessary. If you don't have to go into reverse gear at least once a day, you might want to take a look at that because the implication is that you don't ever mess up. Now, if you have perfectionist tendencies like I do, that may be hard to admit, but let me tell you what. How you can liberate others by just saying sorry and meaning it, you have to mean it, right, is phenomenal. Set others free by owning something, right? And in high-level leadership, in the metrics-driven environment, a matrixed environment, as we say, it's hard to back up. It's hard to back up because, wow, we got to keep moving. We don't have time to apologize. Let's keep moving, right? But see, that apology means so much. It means so much. There's a lot of people on the planet, actually 50% of the population is what we call feelers. Feelers need to know that you hurt their feelings. In fact, another part of the population is what we call thinkers. Well, some of the thinkers need to know that you own the mistake. If you listen to the 5 voices that we taught here before, you know that some voices have a harder time backing up than others. So if you don't reverse very much, give it a try. Responsive mode, right? Backing up. Hey, whoa, maybe I got ahead of myself. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to blame you. I can think of just yesterday, I apologized to my son. I perceived a situation to be different than it was. And when I finally gave him a chance to explain, I said, my apologies, son. I didn't know. And it was over. It was over. But can you imagine how many people live their lives never hearing their dad say, I'm sorry? It's way more than you think. It's way more than you think. And that one phrase right there can set them free. I used to tell my kids, and I still tell them this today, daddy's issues are not your issues. Make your own mistakes. Otherwise, what's the point? I'm telling you that now too. When you reverse, when you go in responsive mode, you create a dynamic where that individual truly knows that it wasn't their fault, and then your issues don't become their issues. Because if they're running around, if your kids particularly are running around thinking it's their fault all the time, they're going to develop an issue, and that's going to manifest in a big way when they become adults, or they'll duplicate that behavior, unfortunately. Now, if you're thinking about work, just as important at work, your team knows that they didn't mess up, right? So if you've messed up, just own it. Own it. And you remember we talked about an accidental leader versus intentional leaders? Intentional leaders go into reverse mode when necessary, and they're not ashamed of it. They're not ashamed of it. Don't be ashamed of it. Let's look at the next gear, recharge mode. Now, I cannot understate the value of recharge mode. If you are an extrovert, you recharge with outside activities and ideas. Outside activities and ideas. People, right? People. That's a huge recharge for an extrovert. However, you still need the time to set aside time to download or to think and to process all that input that you gain. But when you need a recharge, go to a social event, have some fun with some friends. The more the merrier, you might say. Recharge is so important because if you're not, let's say you have a very introverted job, but you're an extrovert, and you don't schedule that time for recharge or incorporate outside activities and ideas into your day, you are going to burn out. And I'm telling you, recharge is so key. Recharge is rest, recovery, and personal fulfillment. Rest, recovery, and personal fulfillment. That's first gear. You've got to have first gear. And I like to go through them in order because if you think about it, you should start your day with some recharge. A lot of people think sleeping is recharge. My extroverts, they don't need as much sleep, but they think they're recharging when they're asleep, and that's not the case. That's not the case. If you go work all day long, and then you just, or work all day long, then you get the kids, work all night, and then you just pass out or veg out, you're missing it. You're missing the boat. Schedule that recharge with friends or family, outside activities. We like to say extroverts are solar powered. All right, solar power. They get their energy from another source. Now, introverts need to recharge as well. And in fact, yours truly is an introvert by the personality standards. But when I took all the assessment tests years ago and all the jobs that I've had, even back in the Marine Corps, I learned that an extrovert, I would say the new world with the digital age celebrates the introvert just as much as the extrovert, if not more. But before that, I would say that America particularly celebrated the extrovert. So in my opinion, or my perspective, being an extrovert got the bills paid. So what we say is, my left hand, I'm an extrovert. Well, I'm actually right-handed. So if I try to write my name with my left hand, it's going to look ugly. It's going to be hard. Right? So if I try to live my life as an extrovert, I'm not recharging appropriately. And I wouldn't schedule that recharge time. In fact, I'll tell you, when I used to run hospitals, I used to commute an hour and 45 minutes one way, and it always baffled me as to why that didn't drive me insane. But it was that recharge time in the car. So if you've got a long commute and you're an introvert, that's a great recharge time. Listen to some music. A lot of people say that, and I have found that it's typically the introverts. All right, so as an introvert, I was recharging in that commute. I still found time to coach football with my son, spend time with the family. Now, if you're an introvert, another version of recharge, first gear, can be one-on-one with another person. So now you can see why Jerry, he does coaching and consulting because I'm often one-on-one. I also love doing speaking and presenting. That is recharge for me too because it's a comfortable space, right? But I'm actually outputting quite a bit. So I need to find time to go in alone. Reading, writing, those kind of things are very life-giving to me, right? And if you're an introvert or an extrovert and you find that life-giving, do it. Schedule that every day. Schedule recharge every day. So first gear is recharge mode. That might be when you get up. Might be when you get up. When I get up, I'm usually in the Word for, anywhere between 20 minutes and 45, hopefully an hour, hopefully a couple hours on Saturday. But I have 4 kids, so mostly I'm doing that on Saturday. Point is, wake up, some recharge mode. For me, it's the Word. It's God's Word with some coffee. Great recharge for me. Another great recharge might be just taking a quick nap. Right? Take a quick nap. If you're an extrovert, a recharge might be having lunch with a friend. All of this can be incorporated into your daily activities so that you can be fully present and productive and still getting everything done. So the 5 gears. Let's look at second gear. Second gear is connect mode, going deeper and bonding with someone. Here's the cool thing, leaders. If you've got some introverts on your team, they're not going to be as excited about sharing all their emotions and feelings in a group meeting or even in a group setting. But you get them in that second gear, that's when the real relationship is formed, particularly with the introverts because they actually recharge one-on-one. Good to know. Got to have that second gear time. Got to have that second gear time. Need second gear with your family. Okay? It doesn't always have to be one-on-one. In your family of close people, let's say less than 5 people in a room, that's good second gear time. Going deeper, maybe having a family meal, right? Playing a board game together, right? That can be connect mode because you're connecting. The board game is just the thing that brings you together. It's the conversations and the relationships and the things that you talk about. That is what makes second gear. That is what makes second gear. Got to have that time. And if you don't have time with your team incorporated into your weekly, when I used to run the hospitals, that's the best example because at least twice monthly, sometimes once a week, depending on how new I was at the hospital, you need to schedule time with your leaders. You need to schedule one-on-one time with your leaders. Doesn't have to be all day. Doesn't even have to be an hour. Just a time where they can go deeper and ask those critical questions that they need to get the job done. That's why you hired them, right? So think about their salary and think about what it takes to get the job done. And if you don't schedule that time, you're essentially wasting that money because they're not going to know what you think. And they might not always be able to share a thing, like I said before, in a group meeting. So, home, personal life, and work, you have to have second gear. Got to have second gear. Let's look at third gear. Third gear says social mode, small talk, chit-chat, and socializing. Nothing wrong with that. Here's the thing. A lot of personalities are very relational. Right? Very relational. About half the population is what we call a feeler. I said that before, but think about it as a relationship. Relationships mean a lot to them. You can't necessarily start a relationship in second gear, right? So third gear is important for your team to kind of get to know one another. Even standing at the water cooler in the morning, as we like to say, standing at the coffee pot, getting your coffee. That 15 minutes when you first get started, that might even be, it could be 5 minutes. 5 minutes of third gear, especially with those very relational people, can supercharge their activity for the day. You want to light those relational people on fire? Give them a quick third gear moment. How was your weekend? Then actually listen. That's the thing I think most people forget. How was your weekend? Then actually hear them out. Now, if they tend to be long-winded, just know that, hey, they need to tell you the beginning and the middle and then the end of the story so that way they can ensure that you heard them. Right? Because they're not 100% sure that they made themselves clear. So they're just clarifying. So just know it may take longer than you think. If your mind is already on task mode, which we're going to get to next, if your mind's already on task mode and you're worried about how many emails you got to check or how many proposals you got to get out the door or whatever your game is, that's not an appropriate mindset for third gear. That's the point of the gears, is to create your mindset so that you're fully present and productive, fully present with that individual, right? Like I said, half the population's a feeler, half's a thinker. If you're a thinker, you're probably thinking about work when you ask that question. Hey, how was your weekend, Bill? Right? Well, Bill wants to tell you because you asked. Right? So if you're going to ask that question, I recommend you do that. Let them tell the story. What seems like a long time might only be 5 minutes. Might only be 5 minutes. And here's the cool thing. If you've done the second gear work with Bill, you could say towards the end of the 5-minute realm, hey, I got a bunch of emails to get onto. Let's chat more later. Because you have that relationship. Bill knows he talks a lot. He already knows, right? But the fact that you actually listen to let him tell you how they went, riding four-wheelers and did this cool stuff, or went to the zoo with the kids and all this thing. Oh, and then we had a flat tire, but it was the funniest thing because this person pulled over and they helped us, and then all the why, right? All the explanation. But what they're doing is they're bonding with you, right? So that third gear is so important for creating the beginning of a relationship that can mean so much. In fact, what we do in our coaching sessions, when I do workshops, even when I do keynotes, I start with some third gear stuff. Small talk, chit chat. I talk to the audience as they're coming in. Small talk. Hey, how's your family? Where are you from? Third gear is so important for building that second gear. If you're sitting in the audience of a keynote and that person's talked to you, think about how much more relevant that information they're sharing is to you. That's third gear. Third gear is the beginning of the relationship building process. It's so important. And if you think networking events and social media platforms are a waste of time, think again. The world's using that and they're building relationships. You need more relationships so you can get more work done and multiply your influence. Third gear is very important, even if you don't think it is, thinkers. You know who you are, right? And if you remember, we went through the 5 voices. The 5 voices, my thinkers out there. Yeah. Third gear, very important. Let's look at fourth gear. Fourth gear, task mode, multitasking and managing to-do lists. We say multitasking very lightly here because we know that you're not necessarily like doing 2 things at once. I mean, I guess you can drive and listen to a podcast at the same time. Hopefully you're not driving and watching a movie at the same time. I used to listen to movies, right? Like the kids are in the car, I would listen to it. I know all the words to Moana. Moana, right? So, all right, if you don't love Moana, I don't know. Who loves Moana's great. That is multitasking, okay? Multitasking at work is probably just being mediocre and more than one thing at a time. So be careful about how you try to have second gear time with a team member while checking emails. You can't do it. So fourth gear, when we say multitasking, it means that moment to moment, you're not fully focused on one thing at a time. Moment to moment, you're checking emails, you're answering phone calls, you're getting things done on your to-do list. That is fourth gear. A lot of times we spend our entire day in fourth gear, and that's another reason why the gears is so important. I cannot stress enough the importance between to-do lists and fourth gear, because that's what it comes down to, is checking off that to-do list. But here's the thing. Sometimes there's priorities that are really important but not urgent. Think about it. There are things that are really important but not urgent. Here's what happens when you spend all your time in fourth gear. They don't get done. They don't get done. If your dream is to create a YouTube channel and you don't have a timeline for that, it might never get done. It might never launch. So fourth gear is important, but don't be accidental and spend all your time in fourth gear. It's so easy. Putting out fires, we've heard that, right? Tyranny of the urgent, we've heard that, right? That's fourth gear. Fourth gear. All right, last gear, love it, focus mode. Focus mode, what do we say here? In the zone, fully focused and immersed in a project. You could be in fifth gear in a number of circumstances. Okay, when I think of fifth gear, I think of, I like to do a lot of creative writing. I'm working on a book now that's more about leadership. When I go to my office at the house, I might spend maybe 20 or 30 minutes actually in first gear, recharge mode, like reading. That is my switch to go right into fifth gear. And it sounds weird because you think about the five gears being in order. We say all 5 gears every day, right? All 5 gears every day. All of us need all 5 of these gears, right? But for me, my process is I need a little bit of first gear because, again, we spend a lot of our day in fourth gear. If you're a business owner, if you're a consultant, if you're doing a YouTube, if you're doing things, even if you have team members, I have production support, I have all kinds of people in my sphere that take care of things. So managing them on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week or however is fourth gear. Getting things done, making sure this thing's done, that thing, etc., staying on time, etc. I love fifth gear. The best way to know if you're in fifth gear is if you don't know how much time has passed. Wow, look at that. It's 3 o'clock. I get in fifth gear a lot of times on Saturdays. If we don't have a thing, like a few weeks ago, it rained out the sports events we had. So all the sports events were rained out. So I got up, did my first gear, got into fifth gear, started writing. Next thing I knew, I was out of coffee and it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I started fifth gear at like 10, right? I hadn't even eaten yet. What does that mean? That means I was hungry, probably tired, right? So fifth gear is excellent, but if you find that you spent all your time in fifth gear, you might be missing out because remember, all the gears are important. All the gears are important. Okay, so I love fifth gear, probably just like the next person, but it can be a trap as well because if you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, then your personality, whatever your weapon system is going to be revealed, right? Mine's the Hulk. So understand that if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and I come out of the office and I recognize that I haven't eaten, probably a little tired, need a little recharge, then I don't need to be making important decisions at that point in time, and I don't need to be having, challenging discussions at that time, right? So I don't mean avoid your family or your team members or anything like that. I mean make sure that you recharge. So get something to eat, right? Take a minute to maybe take a walk around the neighborhood, 15 minutes or whatever, something like that, something to recharge. I can't stress its importance because fourth gear and fifth gear can wear you out. So you need that recharge. So your day might have varying gears. Like mine, I start off in first gear, right? Then I might be in third for, third gear is just a quick bye to the kids, that kind of thing. My wife takes them to school in the mornings. I have older kids as well, check in with them. And then I'm in like fourth gear, taking care of things, right? So you got first gear, third gear, fourth gear. All right, then I have a lunch, right? So I have lunch with a friend or with a colleague. That's second gear. All right, then it's back into fourth gear. Then I do a little recharge at the end of the day. And then in the evening, I like to get in fifth gear. And some days you go from first gear to fifth gear, like I said on Saturday. So the key here is to recognize what is a healthy gear order for you. What's a healthy gear order for you? So take a screenshot of this tool, use it in your daily activities. There's also a masterful book out there called The 5 Gears, written by Jeremy Kubicek and Steve Cochran, that goes into great detail on the importance of the tool and how to use it, and some great examples as well. So 5 gears, folks. The 5 gears is how you can get everything done and stay fully present and fully productive. So the 5 gears, can't say it enough, folks. It's so important to be in every gear every day. Thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Intrepid Impact Leadership Show here on YouTube. If you're listening in on the podcast, thanks so much. Don't forget, folks, to like, subscribe, share. Remember, what you're gaining from these tools and this leadership, someone else can as well. It's free to you. May as well be free to them. Thanks for your support. See you next time.
82% of team members feel misunderstood or undervalued. So this is exactly where I like to be. Teaching, communicating, helping others, realizing their aspirations. I'm so excited about shattering the glittering image and uncovering the truth about you.